Hello, and thank you so much for joining us again on this month's episode of Clubcast. I am your host, and joining me this month is Alex Tasca, and she is the Deputy Director of Neighborhood Services for the City of Port St. Lucie. So Alex, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
She is here today to tell us a little bit about her role with the City of Port St. Lucie, a little bit about the partnership that Boys and Girls Clubs has with the City of Port St. Lucie, and just how that partnership has kind of blossomed within the last few years, and a little bit more about our mobile club program, and she will touch on that a little bit more. But to start off, would you like to just give us a little bit about your role with the City of Port St. Lucie and just kind of how you've gotten to where you are today in your role?
Sure, no problem. Well, as you mentioned, I work at the City of Port St. Lucie in a department called Neighborhood Services. The department is made up of two divisions. One is called Code Compliance, and the other one is called Community Programs. And I oversee the Community Programs division. Code Compliance houses our code officers that patrol the city and help maintain all the code regulations and make sure all properties are in line with that. And over in Community Programs, we manage, federal and state grants. So we manage two primarily, which are called CDBG and SHIP. CDBG is the federal one, and SHIP is the state of Florida one. CDBG stands for Community Development Block Grant, and SHIP stands for State Housing Initiatives Partnership. And they do different things. They have different rules and regulations, and we're always looking into different ways that we can use that funding and how that programming impacts our community. I've always really been very interested in grants and program management and community engagement and community development. So that's how I kind of got into this. And believe it or not, one of my very, very first jobs when I was real young was with the Boys and Girls Club here in Florida. And it was one of the best experiences ever. It's a great organization. I think it's probably one of the largest nonprofit organizations, if not the largest, in the entire United States. And it just does so many different things. It houses many different programs, and I've always been a fan. I've volunteered, I've worked there. But I knew that I wanted to get different experiences in different types of nonprofits and different types of government agencies. So I then went on to work in foreign affairs and regional governments, and I worked a little bit with the United Nations, and now I'm finally back at home in Florida working for local government, which is so amazing because you can see the results of your program in real life on the ground much quicker than you do on an international level, right? So that's a little bit about me and a little bit about Neighborhood Services.
Nice. Tell us a little bit more about your role with Boys and Girls Club. How did you kind of get started there before anything?
Right. So as I said, we always look into all kinds of grant funding that we have and that we could potentially get at the city for the community. And we research different things happening in the community and how those government agencies that give out that grant funding would like for us to develop programs or use the funding. And so the grant fund that we used for this specific partnership is the one from the federal government called CDBG, and it's basically community development. And it can be used for lots of different things like infrastructure projects, sidewalks, parks, safety features in the community, but a small portion of it can also be used for public services. And so we were investigating what would be one of the best public services that we could offer through this grant program. And at the time, we were also experiencing the COVID pandemic. So a lot was happening. We were getting a lot of different funding that was very specifically assigned to things like helping people with food and groceries and rent and mortgage, because a lot was happening all over the world. But this particular grant, we thought, how can we use it to help students who have been experiencing what they experienced during the pandemic, right? Which was having to stay home, having to be a little isolated, homeschooling, doing everything virtually, and not having a club in every neighborhood. We thought, how can we bring a club to some of these neighborhoods? And that's where, speaking with Will Armstead of the Boys and Girls Club and Matt Churchy and Jaylene, we had this idea. We're like, well, why don't we bring the club to parks? And that's how it all began.
That's so awesome. The mobile club has definitely, since I've worked with Boys and Girls Club, it's made such a huge impact in our community. Which parks does it go to? How can people access the mobile club?
Sure. So the thing about grant management is you have to follow the rules and regulations so that you stay in line with the grant and you are able to continue to receive it on a yearly basis. So a really, really interesting thing about the CDBG program is that it's actually celebrating its 50th anniversary this year.
Oh, cool.
Right? So the federal government started this program 50 years ago, and it's based on the US Census data. So the federal government conducts a US Census, and they go out and everybody fills out their forms and says what they want to say about their household. And the US Census Department collects all of this data and does a lot of analysis. The whole United States is divided into census groups. And then those census tract groups are then subdivided into block groups as well. So when you look at all the households in a census, you can see certain demographics about them. You can also see sometimes how much money each one of those households brings in. And so when a census tract has about 50% or more of the households being of an average income, like a moderate income, not super rich, they qualify as a CDBG census tract. So there are thousands of census tracts all over the United States, right? The state of Florida has over 4,000. St. Lucie County area has probably over 1,000, I believe. Actually, a little over 100, I'm sorry. But within the city of Port St. Lucie, there's somewhere between 30 to 40 of them, and 15 of those qualify for CDBG grant funding programming. So we look at those census tracts on a map, and we identify all of the parks in there, and we see which ones are big enough to accommodate the mobile club. And then the ladies and the programmers over at Boys and Girls Club put together their program and rotate through those pre-approved parks.
Awesome. So I know during the school year, you are at the parks on Saturdays, correct?
Right.
The summer just passed. So tell us a little bit about summer and how that scheduling worked. Is it only on the weekends, during the weekdays? How does that work?
That's a great question. So during the school year, they go on the weekends, on Saturdays, but when there are holiday breaks or during the summer, they go during the week as well.
That's
so
awesome.
that people can keep their weekly activities a little bit more engaging. So we started by testing different areas slowly. And then by moving through and rotating through different parks, the two things were happening. You start building a following, but then you also start seeing where the activities are more popular. So we're definitely collecting all of that data and seeing where people are and trying to continue it as often as possible in the places where people are most engaged and most interested.
How has the mobile club impacted the children that attend mobile club and also the families? How do you see personally that affects the children in a positive way?
I think it's definitely positive. I mean, any activity that you do in a park, in an organized way, you know, where people continue to follow and continue to come, obviously is quite positive. But I think that the difference with this activity is that if someone's not into sports, or if they're not into the typical things that happen in a park, maybe tennis or pickleball or playing on a playground or going to the gym, there is another option for another type of activity, right? So the Boys and Girls Mobile Club is doing things like tutoring and providing snacks and meals and talking about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, and art. And we're doing it outside, which is something that people do all the time, but you don't often see an organization doing it on a regular basis in an organized way that people can continue to come to over and over again in your park.
Yeah, I think it's awesome how we bring the club experience that happens at the Boys and Girls Club out to the community for those who can't attend the club for whatever reason. But bringing that to the parks is just amazing, an amazing opportunity for those families to be able to witness what goes on in our clubs. So how has our partnership with the City of Port St. Lucie, how has that led to other things, other events that we're involved with you guys and anything like that?
So the success of this program has spearheaded lots of different things, right? First of all, it's got the community talking. It's got the community talking about a really simple idea, but that has become pretty famous. So we're really excited about that because the more people know about the Mobile Club, the more people learn about it, the more they share it, and the more they're gonna support it. So right now we have a limited amount of funding that can be used in limited areas in the city. But hopefully as we build our following and build more support, we can identify other types of funding and we can bring it even into other areas, right?
That's awesome. Along with your role with the City of Port St. Lucie, how else have you been involved with Boys and Girls Clubs? I know you haven't been involved with Youth of the Year, our Youth of the Year program a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your experience with that and how you got involved with it.
Right. So as I mentioned, when I was younger, I worked with the Boys and Girls Club, and I've always continued to expand volunteer opportunities with young people. So I've worked with PACE to work with young ladies in high school. I've worked with other youth organizations to mentor, but this last year I decided to work with the Boys and Girls Club and mentor one of the Youth of the Year candidates. And it was great. It was like working for the Boys and Girls Club again, but on a one-on-one level with one person. And I know that she learned a lot from me. We had a great time. We did lots of different things together, practicing her speech, learning how to write things differently, even teaching her new words that she hadn't heard of before. But she also taught me a lot. And she taught me a lot simply by sharing her experiences with me. So she didn't have to teach me anything in the traditional way, but just spending time with her and hearing about her experiences today in 2023, 2024, and what she's experiencing at school and what she's going through as far as college applications and family life and social activities. It's very different from what I experienced, you know, decades ago.
Right.
And so it was really interesting to hear from her all of this, and I learned so much about something that I couldn't have learned if I didn't hear it from someone who was firsthand experiencing it at that moment.
Right. I know from the Youth of the Year program, you were also with the Youth of the Year when Enrique was our 2024 St. Lucie County Youth of the Year winner. How I know he is very involved with the city of Port St. Lucie. Do you know any about that? How he's involved with the city of Port St. Lucie?
Sure. So the city of Port St. Lucie launched an amazing initiative last year called the Youth Council. And it's another kind of committee that the city has, but specifically for young people and the youth. And it's a great initiative, and he was one of the first students to be on the very first youth council
so cool.
of the city. So he was our inaugural, on our inaugural youth council, and I'm really, really excited to see how that first group of young people are setting it up and having it take off and launch for a successful future. So we'll be hearing more about that from the city in the next few weeks and few months, and it's going to be interesting to follow how that evolution happens and how his team of the first youth council set it all up.
Nice. That's really cool that our young people are already being leaders in our community and getting involved with so much in our community.
Exactly.
Along with the youth council, I know we Boys and Girls Clubs are very involved with different events that the city of Port St. Lucie hosts, and NICE events are one of those. Could you explain a little bit about what NICE events are, what that stands for, and just how Boys and Girls Clubs is involved with those?
Sure. So NICE is an amazing program that the city started over 7 years ago, and we use the word NICE all the time, but not everybody knows what it stands for. It stands for Neighborhood Improvement and Community Engagement, and it was a great initiative that the city had a lot of foresight in developing. So we started by doing some small-scale neighborhood events. Then we worked with neighborhoods to do neighborhood improvement projects. One of our most famous projects that we did was the utility box wraps. I don't know if you've seen those around the city, but there are big gray utility boxes that house electrical equipment and different things on intersections around the city and near bridges, and they help maintain the infrastructure. But they're kind of an eyesore, this big gray metal box just in the middle of a patch of grass or in a park. And so we started covering them with artwork. And we would reach out to local artists through calls to artists, and it was a hugely successful program. So we did small-scale neighborhood improvements like that, installing benches and dog waste stations. All of that was done through the NICE program. But over the years, community engagement at the city has evolved so much and is just growing, and it's amazing to see it blossom like that. More and more people are getting involved. So we transformed regular neighborhood meetings to what we're calling NICE socials. And they were kind of an evolution of what we were experiencing with the mobile club, that we saw after the pandemic how interested people were in going outdoors. So we started bringing our neighborhood meetings outdoors and doing fun events like game night or carnival night, and we would take the opportunity to set up some booths and some stations where people could engage with each other, play, have a good time in a park, and also talk to city staff and find out what was happening with the city, ask questions, and all of that. And so those were really successful. The city does a lot for engagement. As I already mentioned, they have lots of different public information sessions. They do a lot of outreach. We do a lot of big scale events at the Mid-Florida Event Center. We do a bonfire hayride. We do Fall Fest. You know, July 4th, there's always the famous Freedom Fest. And so all of these are opportunities where city staff goes out and engages with the residents and talks about things like the NICE program or what we do with code compliance. And then we also have another big event called the Citizen Summit, the beginning of every calendar year, where we get all kinds of feedback from residents about what they're noticing as being really significant in the city to bring forward to talk about with city council and help form the strategic plan for the year. So all of those events are continuing to grow, but every time we see an opportunity where we can bring in local partners and local organizations, we try to bring them in and help showcase them there too. So the Boys and Girls Club started attending all of our NICE socials and actually serving food at our NICE socials, which was just the perfect partnership, because if you've got games, people come out, and you've got city staff, people come out because they're curious and they want to talk and they want to hear about what's going on, but you just add food to that and people, even more people come, because it just kind of completes the whole event. So that was super successful. And I think that the food truck that accompanies the mobile unit is kind of like a workforce development type thing.
Our teens that are in the workforce readiness program actually work in the food truck. That's a part of the workforce readiness program. So that's also awesome that they're able to come to those events and put what they're learning in the workforce readiness program to use.
In real life, yeah. Yeah, so that was super successful. Actually, this program, the Mobile Club, was so successful that the National Boys and Girls Club organization recognized it and gave it the Spillet Award for the North Southeast region, right?
That's so awesome. Yeah.
And just following up on that, right now in July, the city of Port St. Lucie actually gave us an award too. They gave us the new Heart of PSL Team Award, which was fantastic. They gave it to us for this year for being the best team in the city. And that is such a huge honor because there are so many great teams at the city, so many people doing such hard work every single day, building roads, managing our traffic signals, managing our storm water, managing our budget and our finances. And there's so many things that go into running a city of this size. We're almost 121 square miles, and the population is growing quite exponentially. The US Census named us one of the fastest growing cities back in 2023. We just entered the top 100 biggest cities in the entire United States. We're 92 right now.
Wow.
And we're also the 6th largest city in Florida. We surpassed Tallahassee, the capital. So Port St. Lucie might have been a little bit of a hidden gem a long time ago, but right now it's really a big city and making a name for itself on the map. And I'm just really excited to see all of the great new programs that are going to be coming out because of that.
We're definitely very thankful to have our partnership with the City of Port St. Lucie to kind of just give our community and our club members more opportunity in our community. And it has just made such an impact on our club families. So we are very thankful for that. And we're excited to see all that our partnership and the mobile club, how it'll all blossom in the years to come. What do you see happening in the future? What do you hope to see happening in the future?
Well, I definitely hope to continue the collaboration for as long as it's needed or as long as it's successful. One of my goals right now in the short term is to try and find additional grant funding that will let us expand the program to everywhere it's needed, or what I'd like to say is everywhere where a brick and mortar club is not available, right? So I think that having a Boys and Girls Club in your neighborhood is a huge asset. And not having one, it's still okay because we can bring a mobile club there, right?
Exactly.
Until we get an actual building, right? Sooner or later, there might be some new Boys and Girls Clubs buildings popping up. But in the meantime, I definitely think we need to look for additional grant funding to expand the program as much as possible outside of these 15 census tracts. And then I would love to see what our engagement team at the city is going to do about creating more and more innovative programming like we've been doing the past couple of years. And maybe we'll be going out with the Boys and Girls Club as city officials and talking to people about important things that the city is doing to help educate them more about what's happening every single day and what the city's strategic plans are. So maybe we can couple Boys and Girls Mobile Club activities with some city engagement activities and do things together to make even more of an impact.
That would be awesome. I'm looking forward to it, and I know everybody at the Boys and Girls Club just is so thankful to have the partnership, and we are looking forward to all that the future holds. How can those watching, those in our audience, how can they support Mobile Club and our partnership? How can they get involved to help support our community?
That's a really good question. So the city has what we call one PSL, and it's our 24/7 city hall. You can go online and download the app and use it through the app, or you can call the phone number, which is 772-871-1775. And if you call the number any time of day, 24/7, you get someone on the phone and they can direct you. You can either submit a request online through the app or over the phone. And you don't always have to submit requests for service. You can also just submit general feedback. So if this is a program that you really, really like and enjoy and think that the city should continue to support, that's one way to communicate with the city that you really like it. Another way is you can send us an email. Go online and see our neighborhood services website, send us an email, and we keep everything on record, and we keep all of that as data and information for when we're planning and researching and programming our grants every single year.
Awesome. Well, we hope that everybody watching kind of knows more now about our partnership and about Mobile Club. To know more, go to our website at www.bgcofslc, and we will see you next month.